What's 3 things that people can do to prepare for the next recession?
Now I will mark off all the companies that you think are going to have a tremendous impact post-recession. So if you believe IonQ is going to leave the quantum race, I don't think it will, but the returns have been great. I will mark off the levels that I want to buy in. Going back to zero debt, find out a way to get into zero debt in your business and personal life as quickly as possible. And then third, find ways to borrow money at a very low interest rate to be able to buy all the assets you want. If I can do anything over in 2020, like my biggest mistake of this half decade, I should have borrowed $15 million at 1% interest and bought up everything I could. Every stock, every piece of land, everybody publishing, life rights, all them OnlyFans girls who started, I should have just bought I want one of these, one of these, one of these. I'm anti-debt, but if I can get the debt at a low enough price, if I can get it at 1% interest and I know it's going to yield me 30 or 40%, I would do that 100 times over. So find a lending vehicle that would give you money at a low interest rate. Prepare for the companies that you want to buy at a tremendous price. And then I will hoard assets for a 5 or 6 year period after I got them. But what would you do to prepare? And I know some people are going to say that's not realistic. Pick whatever loan amount that is significant for you or viable for you.
That sounds like a great plan. I was going to say, yeah, figure out how to hoard assets. There's nothing, and we kind of can relate to this. It was like 2008, we saw a crash. 2020, it was like, all right, we got some capital. In 2008, we were like, oh man, if we had capital. 2020, oh, we got, now what?
Yep.
I would say make sure to have reserves. Any event.
Yes.
Every time we talk about prices and people say, oh, it's too high, it's too high, it's too high. Then a recession comes and it's like, well, is this the bottom? I don't want to invest if this is not the bottom. Well, this is how this thing works, right? So having reserves is going to be important so that you can invest in the companies and some of the asset classes that you wanted to invest in, whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's an ETF or whether it's a stock or an index. You got to be prepared for it. So always have reserves planned to make actionable items. Like, this is the time. I'm doing it now. I'm not waiting. Here's the moment.
So the real question is, when is it going to happen, right? So I think you said 2027. History will point to 2026. Some people say 2025.
Well, that's tight window.
Yeah. That's the real question.
We may see industry related next year. When would they announce full recession? That, going back to the caveat of will they actually announce it, because they didn't in 2022, but probably tail end of 2026 going into 2027. I think by March of 2027 they will have like announced it. So I hope we don't. I really do. But it's looking, if you look at the debt to GDP ratio, the entitlements that are owed, no one's still talking about that issue that's going on in Chicago. There's a few, and if you look at it in the stock market, imagine if we didn't have Nvidia, Apple, and Bitcoin, and now MicroStrategy in the market, what the market would be doing. Have you heard anybody mention the Russell 2000 to you in the last 18 months?
Yeah, it gets brought up. I don't know anyone who invests in it.
Rare. So market's a little toppy, pause. So when it falls over in 26 or early 27, that's going to be the time.
Yeah. Will there ever be that time? Like when it's like, oh, we got to get these small cap companies, and like that becomes I just can't see it with the way.
I think because the emergence of crypto. Yeah, because of crypto, it took all, and this is why I go back to say everyone's your competitor. Like those outsized gains used to be reserved for the Russell 1000 or 2000 or S&P 400, or you would look to Japan or China for those kind of gains, and you will find a small cap stock that could go up 400%. Now, why have to risk it if you have Bitcoin or Ethereum? So it's a very interesting times when everyone, even amongst the hedge funds, there used to be value funds, there used to be value sectors, value ETF, value investors. Everyone wants 50% gains now, minimum for the year. Everyone's eating everyone's lunch. and it's going to cause a collapse in some areas as inflation continues to get pace higher.